Hello, we've got another podcast for Talking Trisomy. Today, I'm excited. I have Allison Thompson joining with me. Allison and I have been working with a number of Trisomy 9 families that are part of SOFT. And Allison and I, we've actually been chatting together for almost, I think, post conference. So 6 months now, since July, of getting a Trisomy 9 stuff. We'll just leave it there because we'll get into the meat and potatoes of what we've actually been doing. But more importantly, I wanted to talk to Allison about her family, about everything trisomy 9 and just the journey of living with trisomy. So, Allison, nice to see you. We're here on our studio. Say hello to everybody and tell us how the family's doing.
Hey, nice to see you too. We're doing pretty good. Everyone is pretty stable and pretty healthy, which is super lucky post holiday season. Um, and I'm actually across the street at our church in the library to record because it's very quiet over here.
There you go. Well, that's nice of them. So tell them thank you for us, from everybody here at Soft and all the listeners here to the podcast. Allison, tell us what part of the country you're in. Tell us a little bit about your guys' background.
I'm actually from northern Middle Tennessee, but I currently live in South Central Kentucky, and that sounds like it's really far apart, but it's like 15 minutes apart. Um, so we're in the South, just the rural South. We have horse and buggies that go past our house a lot because we live near an Amish settlement.
That's different than here in the desert of Arizona, the Phoenix area where I'm coming from. So I'm jealous. Certain
Okay.
parts of the year, I get really jealous of people where they live, where it's green and there's seasons. And my kids, I don't think they really understand that trees can change colors, their leaves can change colors because it doesn't happen here. So, Allison, hopefully it's not too cold or too wet or too soggy or whatever. But again, thank you for joining with us. Well, I love to talk about like just your family's journey.
Hmm.
I know yours is fairly unique when it comes to prenatal diagnoses or there's lack thereof. If we could real quick tell us about your family, tell us what kids'
Hmm.
names that you're comfortable sharing, your husband, and then let's go back to the early days. So feel free to share with me a little bit where you guys are at right now. What's the family head count? What's going on? And let's go back to early days with Asmond. Go ahead.
So my family consists of myself and Alex. We will be married 10 years this May. Um, and we have a daughter, Aria, who is 7, and then we have Asmond, who is 2. And both of their birthdays are in April, so they will be 8 and 3 in just a few months. It is. It is. Birthdays definitely hit different in our community. Um, and then let's see. I'd say we also have Goose, Asmond's service dog, and he's gigantic now. And we also have 4 chickens who are very sassy and like to escape.
You get your hands full with the chickens alone. Awesome.
Yes.
And Goose is there and you said is getting really big. What
Yes, he's huge.
causing hopefully not too much damage or trouble, just a lot of fun. Just hopefully a big ball of fun.
Yeah, for the
Um,
most part, just puppy stuff.
yeah, there you go. Still in that stage. I get
Mhm.
you. Well, again, awesome. So the 4 of you, the 5 of you with Goose and then a couple of chickens and other things and down there in the South. I know we've met a couple times at the last 2 soft conferences. So when you guys travel, you come to conference party. We've got some pictures on the website and we'll have more of like all of this contingent of trisomy 9 families. I've got a number of podcasts lined up with some families that kind of run in that circle. So we got some really big news. Actually, before we get into to some of the past, let's talk about the present. So Allison and I, we met after a soft conference that happened in July of 2025, and we've been planning on releasing a trisomy 9 page on the soft website, so dedicated specifically for trisomy 9. Well, we were able to fast forward and get some information with Dr. Lee, one of the leading experts of trisomy 9, and some of her peers, Kelsey, a genetic counselor that works with her, and Dr. Carey. And so we were able to combine that information with the recent books that Soft has helped produce for Trisomy 13 and Trisomy 18 for new and expectant, and so I'm excited. I'm shaking already here. Allison was one of a handful of families that helped create this, so I'm going to put it on camera right there. A lot of you have seen the other. We're trying to make a rainbow of colors for books, but this is Trisomy 9. So Allison, you haven't you've seen the digital copy, but here I finally got the proof copy, and now it's on Amazon. So whenever this gets dropped, it will be on Amazon. It will be on our website
Mhm,
for a digital copy for free. So Allison, that was one of our big milestones, and I have all these handful of articles and documents you sent me that we'll be putting on a website. So Allison and I have been chit chatting. We got some Google Docs that we share information on. Allison helps with me kind of think through some of the ideas to put on the newsletter. So Allison and I have become fast friends. So thank you, Allison, for that. What a big milestone to have something that we literally can mail, hand to a family when they receive the news that their child has trisomy 9. So
mhm.
there's some unique aspects of that, and we'll get into some of that details. There's trisomy 9M and P, and any we'll cover all that. But let's talk more about your history. You're now kind of one of these families that is giving back to the community, not just in Soft, but across the board. You guys are active on Facebook. But let's go back to early days of finding out, Asmond has trisomy 9, and just kind of walk me through that. Maybe the goods, the bad, just all of it, Allison, if you don't mind.
So, I let me think. Back to my pregnancy with Asmond, it's been quite a while, and we've lived, I feel like, several lifetimes since then. When I was pregnant with Asmond, everything was pretty normal, pretty okay, until we got to our anatomy visit, the anatomy screening, where they tell you the sex of the baby, and they informed me that he was severely growth restricted and otherwise healthy looking, but that he was very tiny and that they were going to monitor me more closely. And I was like, okay. My sister had two children who were severely growth restricted, so I didn't think really anything of it. And then a few weeks later, so around week 23 of the pregnancy, they informed me that he was like extra severely growth restricted and that they were going to have me come in twice a week for ultrasounds for the remainder of the pregnancy and to have my bags packed because at any point they could say, okay, it's time to deliver. Um, and at that point, I was really scared, but I still thought I was just having a really small baby and nothing else. And they had sent me to the high risk doctor. They had sent me for more in-depth ultrasounds and they didn't pick up on anything out of the ordinary except for him being small. Luckily, we made it to 37 weeks. I was able to get the steroid shots to help with his lungs. And then we had our planned C-section, and that went perfectly. Um, we had him at a more rural hospital because we were just expecting growth restriction and nothing further. Um, and that kind of posed some complications in the beginning. So after I had Asmond, they laid him on my chest and I got to snuggle him for a little bit. And then pretty quickly they whisked him away and started giving him some breathing support because he needed some breathing support. And that's pretty common with our trisomy kiddos. Um, but this hospital was more rural. They had less resources. And so he had to stay in the nursery and I had to go to recovery by myself. And I couldn't go to him or be with him until I got my legs back basically, because with a spinal block, you just kinda have to ride it out, and you can't if you can't feel your legs, you can't walk around. So, yeah, that was a bummer. I had to spend, like, 10 hours away from him in the very beginning, and he's started to improve. I still had to keep going to him. They couldn't bring him to our room until, um, I'd say I think around, like, day 5, until he was about 5 days old. They would bring him to our room. We could do supervised, like, feedings with him because they were still trying to figure out the feeding issues that he was having. So we were able to give him bottles, and around day 7, they were like, "I think we're gonna be able to send you guys home." And I was like, "Oh, awesome." And at this point, we still hadn't gotten any indication that there was a genetic component to anything. They were just like, "He's just small and he's acting like he's a little bit younger than we thought," and they asked me if I was sure that I was 37 weeks along, and I was like, "Yes, I was doing fertility treatments, so yes, I'm very aware of, when when I would have had gotten pregnant." Um, so day 7 or night 7, I guess, they take him and do his car seat test, and he fails that epically to the point that they have to, like, then lay him in the isolette in the nursery. They can't bring him back to me. They've got him on some extra breathing support because he was not doing well. And the pediatrician came and spoke with us the next morning, and she said, "Ah, something's up." She said, I think he's silently aspirating, but we can't test for that here on a baby. And I think that there's a genetic component to all of this, and we also can't test for that here. So we're gonna send you guys to the NICU at a different hospital so that he can get his higher level of care and you guys can figure out what's going on."
How
And
I
go
just
ahead.
I mean, that doctor, I feel for these medical professionals, t ultrasound technicians or what have you that, like, have to just
Mhm.
they see something and then they might have an awkward pause that they try not to let out, and the families get anxious, and so I'm just thinking as you were making that transition from your hospital to now a NICU, what were some of the feelings you had there? I mean, y they felt something was off or up, like, sorry to bring up
Mhm.
any raw emotions, but do you mind talking about that a little bit? Maybe just some of those feelings others might have felt?
I was absolutely terrified, and I have a child that's older than Asmond, and my mother-in-law is a wonderful, sweet angel, and she was keeping our daughter at home so that we could be there at the hospital with Asmond. But I was ready to get home, and we were so close. um, so I was ready to get home to have both of my babies under the same roof, to bond as a family, and I was just devastated. It was a rug pull, and, I also dealt with both children dealt with postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety, so that the situation did not help. I went and, I took a shower because I knew I needed to cry, and I'm a someone who doesn't like to cry in front of people, and so I took a shower, and I sobbed in that shower, and I surprised myself. I cried so hard that I ended up with a nosebleed. Uh, yeah, got that all cleaned up. My husband, after the fact, we talked about this, and he said that that was kind of his time where he needed to have his moment to have his cry as well. And so we both just, had our moment to cry, and then we came back together and we came up with a strategy to kind of do the transition to the NICU. Um, he had to convince me he had to work very hard to convince me to go home that night, spend the night with our daughter, um, sleep in our own bed because we'd been sleeping in, like, the hospital bed and a
Yeah.
couch.
Those are
And
no good. Sorry, hospitals, you
yeah,
do not make those comfy.
yeah. In their defense, most people only stay a few days. So, we packed up, you know, showered at our house, got all of that, and then the next morning went down to the hospital to do the transfer to the NICU.
So, how far of a trip was that, like, proximity-wise from your home, the 2 hospitals?
So, my house to the initial hospital was about an hour, and then my house to the NICU was about an hour and a half to an hour and 45 minutes, just depending on traffic. And that's also our hub of care for Asmond now.
Yeah, okay. It's a little bit of a drive. So getting that, husband might, get a home, see your daughter, rest, hopefully, or at least lay on something more comfortable. Probably didn't do much
Yeah.
sleeping. and then head on out, to the NICU. And then tell me about what happened when you got to the NICU. How did those tests go? How did those walk us through those?
So, yeah, we get to the NICU, and it's completely different than the, rural hospitals. We're in the floor that has, like, the bay for each, kiddo instead of, like, hospital rooms. It's set up more like, it's set up more like the PICU, I guess. And so we go in, it's a very tiny room, and we just meet specialist after specialist after specialist. But we were also meeting with like nurses who were helping us be able to hold him, to be able to hold Asmond, because we weren't able to do that very much in the outside hospital. Once they got him stable after that car seat test, they were like, don't touch him, don't look at him, don't breathe on him, because they were scared. And at the NICU, they're much more equipped to deal with that and to let parents hold the baby. They told us we could put him into clothes, they let us help bathe him, they did a lot of that stuff, and we met with I don't even know how many doctors, but eventually genetics came in, and they told us they were gonna run a test called a chromosomal microarray, and I asked him what he was looking for, because I'm just like, "What are you looking for? Are you looking for, like, a reason that my child might be so small? What is this?" And because at first I was like, "Oh, you guys are just looking for like, my family has small babies, and you're looking for a genetic component to that." No. He said that he was looking for either, like, an extra piece of genetic information or a deletion of some kind. He explained it like that our genes are like a set of encyclopedias. And sometimes you can get pages from one volume of the encyclopedia moved over to the wrong volume of the encyclopedia, or you might be missing a few pages. Um, but that was kind of how he explained it to us.
Like I haven't heard that analogy. I kind of like that.
Yeah.
So they're looking for that. So they did the chromosomal study. They're trying to figure out
Hmm.
exactly what is going on. There's just enough of has been small. Some of these different tests they're not passing that they do to
Hmm.
newborns, and it's just like let's see if there's something there, some trace of that. How long did this all take? All these visits from specialists and doctors. Are we on multiple days now in the NICU? How long is this before you get a chromosomal study?
So they draw for that. I think it was like day 1 or day 2 in that NICU, so he was, like, 9 or 10 days old, but we that first day, it was, like, back to back to back to back. Someone was coming in and checking in on him, doing an initial exam, um, but it was, like, day 1 or 2 at that NICU. Now, results-wise, it took a couple of weeks for that, so in the meantime, they just worked on, um, giving him the breathing support and the feeding support, and checking every system in that child's body for any defects.
And so, just um, eh, how did you handle those moments? Like just kind of the stress back and forth. Then, did you have another emotional moment that your husband and you coming together? Do you mind sharing some of those emotions, maybe between these things, and
Yeah.
kind of how you handled that?
Um, yeah, so emotional, what I was not doing great. So my to kind of do a little bit of rewinding, I at my post-op follow-up, because I had asthma via C-section, so a week after I had him, I had my follow-up with my doctor. And they did the screening for postpartum anxiety, postpartum depression. I scored very high in both of those categories. And I had explained to my doctor because he asked me, he was like, medication? And I was like, no, I think I'm gonna be fine. This was at, day 7. We were looking like we were gonna be going home the next day. And so I was like, no, I think it's situational. I just miss, my daughter. I want to have both of my babies under the same roof. And it should resolve once we get home, so I don't think I'm gonna go that route just yet. And then the next day, we had the issue with the car seat test and all of that. And on my way back to my house from the hospital, I called my doctor up and I was like, "Hey, about that medicine." Um, and they called in the medication to help with the postpartum depression and anxiety, and I, picked that up on the way home and immediately got started on that, and that helped. So, how I dealt with that partially was, medication for the anxiety and the depression, because at that point, I didn't I was scared, obviously, because my baby, he's still not doing well, he's not eating well, he's not breathing on his own very well, um, and we can't figure out why. So I was very scared, and I, have just in general dealt with depression and anxiety, but I had a tendency to, and most moms will probably relate to this. I have a tendency to blame myself for things that are going wrong. Um, and so I was thinking back just over my entire pregnancy, the whole time I was like, did I take the right vitamins? Did I eat something I wasn't supposed to eat? Did I take the wrong kind of medication? Could this have been because of the fertility treatments? Or even back further, I had weight loss surgery like over a year before I got pregnant with Asmond. And so I was more concerned of, is it because I had that weight loss surgery or did I get pregnant too soon? Just a lot of those kind of thoughts swirling around in my head. And um, I just felt a lot of guilt because I thought, oh, I made him small. Um, but that was kind of how I dealt with that. They also gave us a journal in the NICU. Like once you arrive, you're checking in. The the women who work the front desk in the NICU at our hospital were super, super sweet ladies. Um, and they were just like, "Welcome to the NICU. I know that they were like, "I know you're probably scared, you're probably overwhelmed. Um, this is how you can find or these are the sleep room options because the hospital that we stayed at had sleep rooms for us, and they went ahead and like put us on the request list for that, and they handed us this journal, and it was a NICU journal that had spots that I could fill in stuff for like Asmund's vitals, his weight gain every day, questions I have for the team, any updates from the team during rounds. It was all in that journal.
That journal, how'd that journal help you? Was that a good thing? Like, how'd you use it?
I think it was a good thing for me. I'm a very like checklist person. I'm a former teacher. So I like to have that kind of stuff and to be able to document things. Whenever I was pregnant with both kids, I would come into the doctor's office, like, with a notebook with questions that I had thought of since the last appointment. So that was very helpful to me. It helped me to keep up with his progress, like, how much weight has he gained, and what are we gonna be looking for testing-wise, because it is a lot when you have an entire team of doctors come in and say everything that their specialty is covering, and they're going by body system. So, being able to, like, jot that down during rounds, and then after they leave, look at everything and be like, "Okay, this is what we're doing," was very, very helpful to me to process everything as we went through.
Yeah, I mean, just staying organized. I mean, just I remember those days with our 3 kids, just it feels like everything's moving, but now you're out of your house, you're at the NICU, having a journal, having this, I mean,
Mhm.
you're just out of your norm and normal routine. And for me, I live in a metropolitan area, so, like, thinking about an hour and a half drive to a NICU seems distant for me. So you're a ways away.
Yes.
How, like, you had the moment early on where as you were transitioning from your local hospital to the NICU, and you had a cry and your husband, and then you came together. I thought it was quite magical how you kind of just said, we came together and we made a strategy. I know in the toughest of
Mhm.
moments, in my relationship with my wife and my family, I've seen my parents through different hard times. They kind of rally together. And so that was quite touching for me to hear you share that. When you're at the NICU and you're going through these specialists and you're leading up to finally receiving information of what's going on, did you and your husband have more moments like that, or how did you guys handle that as a couple, if you don't mind me asking?
Um, let's see. It's hard. Let me think back. We we talked to each other a lot about what was going on. And Alex, I will say, he kind of kept his emotions to himself for the most part during that time because I was not okay. um, just because I was physically recovering from a C-section and
Birth, yeah.
then dealing with postpartum and then on top of that my baby was not okay. And so he was just kind of like being the support, being the rock that I needed during that time. So he would kind of like occasionally talk about his feelings, but not not as much. He kind of let me do that for the most part. Um, and would just try and offer me like a sense of comfort because um that's what I needed at the time, and he had the bandwidth to kind of rein in his feelings.
What I mean, it's a gift to have someone like that. So kudos to him to have that kind of sense and awareness. Um, I'm thinking through just
Mhm.
having heard many a stories and even witnessed it firsthand. Um, I was born after my sister Carrie was born, so I kind of only know my mom post these moments. Um, but she has told me at times, and I think I've talked to other parents that say, "Man, there's these kind of pivotal moments that change me." Allison, I said earlier in the podcast, you're kind of an expert. You're probably one of the more leading experts in the world, and that's common for parents that have children with conditions like trisomy 9, trisomy 18, 13. They become fairly educated in this to pretty intensive levels. As you started shifting and started making this strategy and kind of getting through, maybe these low moments, or did you start pivoting? Like, how did you personally start changing? Can you look back and think of moments or stories that you might be willing to share that kind of show that evolution of your own self?
Yeah, so that would actually kind of like segue really nicely into the next part of our story, which is our diagnosis day. Um, and that was um, interesting because I think before diagnosis day, um, I kind of, as far as with what the doctors were suggesting and wanted to do and wanted to try, I was going with the flow because I was like, you guys know how to do this, and I have no idea what's going on. Um, had never heard of trisomy 9, so I was just like, we're gonna we're gonna go with what you guys say because you're the experts. And on diagnosis day, I think it was like Asmond was almost a month old at this point, and I think he had already had his G tube placed at this point. I was hanging out behind the little privacy curtain. They had moved us into the step down NICU. And I was hanging out behind the little privacy curtain pumping, and the genetics team comes in and they were like, "Hey, we're here. We've got the results of the chromosomal microarray. Can we talk to you real quick?" So I was like, got my head poked out of the little curtain, and I'm like, "Yeah, go ahead." And they tell me that Asmund has trisomy 9 mosaic, and I look at them like, "What's that?" And they explain that he has an extra chromosome 9, and it's in some of his cells, but not all of his cells. And they don't know which ones or how many. It can be different throughout the entire body. And I was like, okay, so what does that mean for him? And they were like, basically kind of like a shrug. They were like, we don't really fully know. It's very rare. I think at that point in time, they told me that less than 1,000 people in the world have it, and but it affects them all differently. And I said, okay. And they said, "Oh, do you have any questions?" And I'm like, "A ton."
Yes.
So I
Yes, I
started
got
with like
questions.
the, yeah, I started with like, is he gonna, like, what's his life expectancy was my first question because I was like, you know, the only trisomy that I had ever heard of was Down syndrome. So I was like, what's the life expectancy that we're looking at? And they were like, we don't know. And I was like, cool. Is he gonna walk? Don't know. Is he gonna talk? Shrug. Is he gonna eat by mouth ever? And they were like, don't know. And so I was like, is he gonna be able to live independently of me and do any of like the normal things that people do as they grow up and mature? And they were like, we don't know. And so after they left the room, I sat there and cried. I Googled, don't do that. Don't don't Google. Because when I Googled, I came across autopsy photos, um, pages that referred to the condition as um, incompatible with life, which in the rare trisomy community we are no stranger to. Um, and what else did I come across? Just some pretty gnarly photos. So I cried more, and then later on that evening, our like just general NICU doctor came in, and he said, I heard that you guys got your results of your chromosomal microarray because I'd been bothering him about it. So he was like, I heard you guys got the results of that. And do you have any questions? And I asked him the same questions. And he said, well, he goes, it's a super rare condition. We don't know very much about it. So, from what I can gather, it's going to just depend on Asmond and he's going to write his own story. And I know that's frustrating to hear. And I was like, it is. It is very frustrating to hear. And he said, um, or I said, what do I do? And he told me, he goes, because this is such a rare condition, you are going to become Asmund's expert. He goes, you are going to know everything there is to know about him because you're with him all the time. And you are going to learn everything that you possibly can about his condition. And you are going to become the smartest person in the room when it comes to him. And I want you to own that. And I was like very intimidated because I was like, how am I going to do that? If there's like, if you can't find the information, I'm thinking like, how am I going to get this information? And he said, parents, you're going to find other parents of kids with this diagnosis, and you're going to connect with them, and they are going to share this information with you because they have become their child's experts, and they've been keeping them alive longer than you've been keeping Asmund alive. And I said, okay, how do I find them? He goes, there are groups online. And I'm like, where? He goes, Facebook. And he said, you just type in the search bar, trisomy 9 Mosaic, and join whatever groups you can find. And so that's what I did that night is I searched on Facebook and looked for every single trisomy 9 group, trisomy 9 families, all of them. And I joined. And that night I had Kathy, Mac's mom, reach out to me. I had Megan, and her son's name is Cole. She reached out to me. Um, Tiffany, Bethany's mom, and then Leah. What is her son's name? I think his name's Andrew. I'm drawing a blank on his name. But I had several trisomy 9 mosaic moms reach out to me directly, and they were sharing photos of their kids. They were telling me how old their kid was, telling me about their life with their child, and also telling me what to have Asmund screened for before we left the NICU. And that was like that night. And it was overwhelming, but that was kind of the beginning of me becoming Asmund's expert and learning everything that I could possibly learn, and then just taking that information to our medical team and saying, this is what the other trisomy 9 parents have told me that we need to look for. And I stopped kind of just being along for the ride and started being part of the team.
Well, what great advice. Like, I've heard other parents like have said that to me. There was a conference in when we were in Minneapolis. A parent said that very specifically, like, uh, you're going to become the expert of this condition. When you're in the room, even though these folks have gone to school a lot longer than you or have studied other aspects of it, there's knowledge that you're going to carry because you have been there and you walk this path and you've read books, you've read journals, you've found things. And then what amazing advice to find other families, talk to them. Um, and so there you go. And now you have this. And yes, you're leading the team. You're leading Asmund's team. You are the spokesperson for him. Um, uh, it's a tall order and it's a weight that you bear, you and your husband that have to feel that. And it doesn't fall, far from my mind to think, man, you've got to carry that. Parents do that all the time, right? Like, I got a fourth grader. I've got to help her. She's not ready to do certain things. But the system is set up in a way to
Mhm.
really kind of help them because there's so many like her. But Asmund being unique, being so special, there's not as many systems set up to help you help Asmund. So yeah, what kind of weight that you carry? So kudos to you with all the things you've done. I'm not the biggest social media fan. I'm having to learn so that I can communicate with our soft families out there. Um, there's good and bad in social media, but this is one in my mind. Facebook, these groups where you can easily down in the South connect with other people. Soft came because no doctors even knew where to tell, you know, two parents to get together, and a phone call turned into a small gathering, turned into a bigger gathering. Now we have what we have. And so hopefully you found some reprieve and some things together with those folks online. Um, as you started becoming the expert, how has that changed you? Like, what has that done for you? I know some parents have written books, other people have done certain things. Is there anything that you've started doing that's really brought passion to your life, Allison, as far as becoming the expert for Asmond? Not that there's anything particular you have to do other than be the awesome mom you are, but is there anything that's come from it or anything you want to talk about that you do as now kind of a leading expert?
I'm sorry, most of that cut out. I'm so sorry.
But you didn't hear me. That's fine. I'll ask a better
Yeah, I
question. It
can't
was
hear you.
good because
Oh,
we'll
there
cut
you
that
go.
out. You, you,
Sorry.
you can hear me now? Okay. Um,
Oh,
so
it's cut out again.
what about now?
There you go.
Better? As you've now become the expert, still no? You can't hear me.
That's better. And it cut out again.
Test, 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 testing,
There we go.
testing, testing. What about now?
That's better.
Two tracks, but it's no biggie. So we'll keep going. Now, I'm not sure what it caught before, but I was just complimenting you. Thinking about families that, like yours, that carry this title of expert, right? I've got a fourth grader, I got an eighth grader. I need to lead my family. I need to be the expert of my child. But there's so many systems and tools and resources set up for, children for the most part, but children with trisomy 9 in particular, like they said, like you have to carry this additional weight of being the expert when you go to the schools, when Asmund gets ready for that, when you go to your doctor's appointments. And this is a similar feeling that I've talked to many other parents with children with these conditions that are just like, I walk in a room and I know more than others specifically to this condition. And that's a weight that you carry. But it's a weight that I think I've seen many parents kind of it takes them to a new level. How has that, I don't want to limit like it's just it's a weight that's on your shoulders, but I just I see you, you're someone that speaks so well and talks so well and knows so much. I see the transformation. You're an amazing person. How has that felt for you? I mean, just carrying that, doing things. I guess what I'm asking is, how do you feel it's impacting your life and your husband's life? Um, being Asmond's parents?
Oh, that's felt different at different times.
Yeah.
At first, um, it it was really heavy. At first, it was heavy, and at first, it was scary and very intimidating. And then, um, we just kept, I guess, kept going. Um, a lot of the times, my sister, I love her, and she's wonderful. But there have been times where, like, my sister or my mom, they've been like, "Oh my God, you're so strong. You're such a good mom," and I'm like, I'm not doing anything that they wouldn't have done with their own children, um, just because the only option aside from like caring for your child would be criminal. It would be neglect. And so I'm like, okay, well, I I'm not doing anything that anybody else wouldn't do for their child. At least I hope. Um, but I know that it comes from a place of them being like, I'm recognizing that your journey is more difficult than what I'm doing, and it's different than what I'm doing. And so, I've kind of had to reframe that because a lot of people will say something along those lines to me. Um, I'm trying to think and process for a second.
Your time. Um,
Yeah, I would say, it's definitely been heavy at times, um, kind of taking on the role of not just being part of Asmund's team, but being his expert and being his primary caregiver and kind of like his primary caregiver, his advocate, and then ending up once you learn so much about trisomy 9 mosaic and caring for somebody who's medically complex, you kind of just start you become the team lead. Even though I don't have a medical degree, my background is in education. Um, but you kind of become the team lead, and so very you're making decisions that carry a lot of weight. Um, especially when we get to the times where Asmund's gotten very sick. The decisions that we had to make and things we had to sign off on were very consequential,
it,
and so
it, it,
those
it
times are heavy.
it's a lot. And I can see how, just the framing of, man, you're doing so great, or just all these compliments from external people. And you kind of think, if you're in my shoes, I know you would have the strength to do it too, but they're
Hmm.
not. So I think take it as that compliment and wonderful thing.
Yeah.
For me though, as a sibling, I like to point out, and I think back to my sisters because I have two with disabilities, varying kind. Trisomy 18 for Carrie and Savannah with cerebral palsy and hydrocephaly. I'm closer in age to Savannah. So just my perception on disability is different than any of my peers that didn't have a family member that was disabled, and some did and some didn't, and so you could kind of have this different perception. And so how have you kind of viewed disability, medically fragile children? You're definitely someone that communicates on social media, does a great job kind of showing different things. I remember seeing on a whiteboard you had your like daily list, right? Because you said you like lists, but like, what kind of advice do you have for other parents that might be finding themselves on this journey of medical fragile children of varying kinds, in particular trisomy 9 mosaic? What kind of advice would you give them as they're walking that path or just starting in it?
I would say throw out whatever you thought you knew about life with a disabled child. Just like throw it away. Because the thoughts and feelings that I had about becoming a parent of a disabled child before I became a parent of a child with disabilities um, were, I mean, they were misconceptions. It's the best way I can word that. They were wrong. Um, I had very different ideas about what quality of life means for somebody. Um, and just to touch on that a little bit, I thought that because my son is fed by a tube, and because he needed extra support breathing, and then he at the time, which he's still not walking, but, the possibility of him not being able to walk and run and play, like my daughter, who is a typical child, um, I thought that that meant that his life was going to be like, have a lower quality, and I was absolutely wrong, and I'm so glad that I was absolutely wrong because he doesn't walk, he doesn't talk, he doesn't eat by mouth yet, and I say yet because he's working on those things and he's making progress in his own time, um, but he is the happiest human being that I know, and he loves big, he's happy, and anything you throw at this kid, he approaches it with joy, and it's not just joy, it's a contagious joy. His smile is contagious. So, like, you can't look at him and him smile at you and you not smile back. It's just I've never met anybody who can. So that's I'm saying it's a contagious smile and contagious joy. Um, he's taken care of, he is loved, and he's part of his community, and he has an impact in his community, both like locally, our community, and then beyond that in the greater trisomy community. He has impacts in those areas, and like he's living large.
Yeah. I'm so glad you brought that up. And like, quality of life question is so loaded. It's and it's
Yeah.
so misunderstood. Um, I don't understand, and I say this a lot. I might have sisters that have disabilities in kind, and I'm with you. I've seen the joy and the happiness on their faces, with just they make me happy. Just thinking about them, I'm starting to smile. My
Mhm.
interactions with them, and some of those moments, those tender moments, where just there's a smile in you. So I'm excited to think on those good moments. At the same token, as a parent, I sit in a different perspective. I have not had to walk the same path my parents did, that you are, that others are, but I definitely can see from my lens that there is tons of joy and there's tons of excitement and there's tons of milestones that are journal worthy, memorable worthy, that every one of these kids, no matter the varying degree of disabilities that comes from the chromosome disorder, you're absolutely right. There's so much that can be gained from it. So I do always like to say this as a sibling, I see it, I saw it, I live it, and they changed me. I'm a better dad because I have two wonderful sisters that, in my mind, are perfect. You know, um, by definition, in my world, they've never like done anything harmful or hurt anyone's feelings or done anything that
Mhm.
was inappropriate for a variety of reasons. But man, they have made me a better person. And so my quality of life is better because of them. So again, it's so loaded, that question. I'm so glad you brought that
Mhm.
up because the definition is on a sliding scale, and joy, I'm a basketball nut, is hitting a three-pointer, getting a dunk. It's also on this other perspective of life, like what is the true joys of life? My quality of life is better because of my sisters. And so hearing you say that as a mom, I'm just saying, man, the just utter joy that Asmond brings to the room, and it's contagious. What a word. Okay, we both could
Yes.
like just live on that soapbox of quality of life is being there. Um, which I mean makes me want more people to know of the variety of those doctors. In their humility, we're like, we don't know what Aspen's going to do. We don't know. We don't know this, that, the other. You ask question after question. They're like, I don't know. What joy has come from rubbing shoulders with other families, in particular with trisomy 9 and trisomy, just medically fragile children, but trisomy 9 in particular, that has brought you joy as you've lived the what was it, the charge to go meet other families? How has that started to change your life as you met other families?
So our first trisomy 9 day, which is March 9th. Um, we went to Ohio for a meetup with some Trisomy 9 families, and that was the first time that we got to meet anyone else who had Trisomy 9, and, um, that was wonderful because it's a moment that a lot of, the soft families can also attest to. When you get to meet somebody who is walking the same journey that you're walking, um, it's like this unspoken thing. Like you don't really go with like, "Oh, hey, my name is this and I do this and you don't really make small talk. You immediately just like have this bond. And it's like an unspoken bond. Like they know what you're going through and you know what they're going through and you're just like swapping stories and just bonding over the different aspects of your journey. Um, and that was the first time that that happened. And you know, it was wonderful to get to meet those moms and talk to them and have them see their kids in person, who were older than Asmond and alive. Because at that point, I was like, I don't know when I was like, I feel like we have an expiration date, but I don't know when it is. Um, and so getting to see kids who were older than Asmond alive and happy and playing with their siblings and, you know, in all of their own unique ways, just doing life. And that year we also went to Soft in Minnesota, and that was my first flight ever. And that was scary, but we did it. And we got to meet, more trisomy 9 families and then also the trisomy 18 and the trisomy 13 and, you know, beyond. And it was just the same thing. That was the first time I met a trisomy 9 Mosaic boy besides my son. And his mom had asked if she could hold Asmond because she kind of explained to me that like the first couple of years were pretty traumatic and she had kind of blocked a lot of those out and Asmond looked so much like her son and so she had asked if she could hold him and she had held him and we were talking about different things and we just within like 5 minutes we're both crying just because of that like that bond.
It is. I mean, it's just something, like you go to for me going and attending like my local church congregation, we were the only family with a wheelchair. So we said we were the family on the wheelchair aisle. You feel
Mhm.
unique so much in your own world. As kids start getting into school, you might, you know, just you're unique, you're different. When you're around other families that have walked a path either as medically fragile as kind of a big swath of the population, or you narrow down to your specific chromosome disorder. Like, how fun is that? We've got a
Mhm.
picture of all the trisomy 9 families together, like in the hotel foyer. And like, we tried to share that everywhere. It's so cool having just this collection of
Yes.
kids and parents and families. And you're absolutely right. There's just this understanding. I remember as a kid, I'd always think, I don't have to explain myself when I go to soft conference. I don't have to explain why my
Yeah.
sister has a what has to this or that. Or it was funny. This last one, there was a beeping, like a feeding tube. I don't know all the details
Yes.
as much as I used to, but the names of the feeding tube, this, that. But there was like a beeping, and like five other people around them were like, "Is that our machine or is that your machine?" Oh, okay, it's yours over there. Yep, okay. Hey, what? And then they started swapping like techniques and styles and things, and it's just such a fun thing, to have moments where you don't have to explain yourself. I think that's what I see.
Yes.
I know that was nice as siblings. I didn't have to like go through my story of what my sister is. Anyway, so what a wonderful time. So you went, you traveled, um, drove over, had that first Trisomy 9 meeting. Got to see families, soft conference, got to swap stories, swap, tearful moments and all that. What is how does that help you face normal day-to-day challenge? Does that kinda give you just like a recharge, or what is like day-to-day grind? What gets you through? You're
Oh
just having to
goodness.
face the day.
um a lot of what gets me through is caffeine.
Fair. I think
I would
that's
say
like
caffeine.
America. Yeah, that's the US.
Yeah, a lot of caffeine. But I would say, just general day-to-day stuff would be, like, all of the care tasks that I have to do for Asmond, and, even if I didn't wanna get out of bed, I have to. So on, like, harder days mental health-wise, like, I still have to peel myself out of bed and go do the things. So just, taking care of Asmond would be a thing that helps me get through it. I do lean on my husband as a support. He's been my best friend for, like, 13 years now. Um, so I do lean on him a lot for support. I do have, like, a core group of friends who, even though we might not see each other in person a lot, we stay in contact. We have a group message for the Trisomy 9 moms where we stay in contact. Um, I spend a lot of time with my sister and my mom. They live close by. And my church, I live right across the street from them. Um, and they have been very, very wonderful in supporting um, my family through all of this, and making us feel not like we're the odd ones out, but that we're part of the church family, and that Asmund isn't like off to the side. He is part of our church family. Um, and he's a celebrated member of our community. And that the impact of that alone has been like amazing
It
for
just
me.
makes sure yeah. What support that brings to your family where you can feel like anyone else. Like, yeah, we might need a little differently right now, and that may change, but Aspen is part of this community and to be accepted, what a wonderful thing. And I know the Trisomy 9 group is active. I got invited in it. I should have warned you all that I literally don't know how to post on Facebook. I learned like 3 weeks ago. Like this is me like confessions of us of a digital marketer that doesn't know how to do social media. I can do other aspects of it, but I feel like I'm old for it. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I just mindset change. But not another day for social media drama. But what a cool thing that you have. You know, you've got levels of support, layers of support right in your home with you and your husband. But I think thank you for sharing like the honesty. One, caffeine. I'm right there with you. Um, and two, that you wake up and you're like, another day we got to get through. We got to do this. And I think that's like probably more relatable to everyone that's listening, anyone that's lived, right? There's just these things that you're just like, um, I just don't want to do it today, but you find the courage, you find the things, and you get up and you do it. Then you see your kids smile, or you get that hug, or whatever, and you're like, "Oh yeah, okay, that's right, that's right."
Yeah.
Man, kids recharge you like crazy, and I know seeing Asmund smile when we've met up can definitely do that, and just what a great blessing. So caffeine,
Yeah.
smiles, and
His
hugs get you going.
Yes. And his pure excitement when I like undo the latches on his safety bed and I pull the little wall down in the mornings to say hi to him, like he just lights up immediately and I'm like, "Okay, I'm glad I got out of bed today."
Endorphins are just flooding your mom brain, just like, all right, let's do this.
Mhm.
Um, Man, I can attest to that. Having kids just brighten your day. I want to talk real
Yeah.
quick about misconceptions. And if you're all right, you said something earlier in the podcast. You used the term incompatible with life. And
Mhm.
um, our the InSoft, it started with two trisomy 18 families. Now we have, then it kind of expanded to trisomy 13. The reason why, for those that might not be aware of it, is because those two conditions were basically labeled together in medical journals, and they both were labeled with the same perception of incompatible with life. Very similar. And trisomy 9 has gotten the similar label, as you described. The second thing that's somewhat in modern times, many of families I've talked to, with like you, Allison, the prenatal care wasn't like trisomy 9 doesn't come up with like an indicator all the time in prenatal care on ultrasound to say, oh, there's some things here we need to study or test for. Trisomy 18 and 13, there's a lot more prenatal identifiers that kind of give them. But a lot of the old, I'm going to say old time, I'm going to get hit by like Barb Van Hairway is going to like hit me next time she sees me because I said some of our original members of SOFT that had children in the 70s and 80s, they live a very similar experience of finding out after birth. I know that's how it was for my family. And that's that there. So these three conditions have a lot in common. And I think that's one reason, like at conference, they can kind of, we partner up and you guys kind of do your own thing because there's certain things that just you guys need to talk about, certain condition like moments. But just seeing and it's not just these three, those are just kind of the biggest populations, so they get labeled frequently in my writings. But there's a number of conditions that kind of have this incompatible with life. You have this moment either at the ultrasound or at birth that it's like there's something wrong here, or they use terms that are just like that just bring this awful feeling to you as a parent. And sadly, these moments have kind of bonded, your fellow families together. Um, and sorry to start on a negative. Let's now talk positive. The work that you're doing to change that is inspiring, and it's your voice amongst a lot of others. So I want to thank you for that. What is your own personal goal to kind of help evolve the understanding of trisomy 9? Like if we could kind of think like major wave a magic wand and start thinking future, what does that look like? Because we're not there. Like I'm just going to call it out. It's not where it needs to be. We need more research, and I know there's funding going out there. But where would you want it to go if this was a your dream scenario for future when it comes to understanding trisomy 9 mosaic? What could you wish for?
Um, so one of the things that motivates me to be one of these voices and do this work is the the night that I had gotten the diagnosis for Asmond and had those moms reach out to me. It was just like a moment of relief because I found these moms, and um, it was just so helpful and nice that like these women um, came together. They like took me by the hand virtually and started leading me through this journey and made it that much easier for me. And I didn't even realize how much easier they made it for me until we had gotten to soft the next year and heard some of the parents of older children tell their stories of when they learned that their child was going to have one of these conditions, and what the kind of the awful things that the doctors said to them. Um, and so, because they made my experience that much easier, I wanted to do the same for any parent that comes after me to make that easier for them. So that was kind of like the motivation behind doing any of this stuff. um, and then also just raising awareness so that, again, the next family that gets this diagnosis, maybe there's a nurse or a doctor who's heard of trisomy 9 at that point because of me being really loud and annoying about it. um, the goal overall is just to make the next person's journey easier so that they don't feel so isolated or so alone or so scared, because those things do happen on this journey, and I just want to help in that way.
Yeah. Just kind of
So
paving that forward.
if I could wave, yeah, if I could wave a magic wand, I think I would like to see more med schools including and inviting um, parents to come and speak to the classes of med students, um, just like everywhere. I would love to do that because we are our kids' experts, and my son is the only let's see, he's only one of 2 folks with trisomy 9 mosaic in the state of Kentucky, or sorry, the Commonwealth. And then I think there's only one other trisomy 9 mosaic family living that I know of in Tennessee. Um, and there's one other trisomy 9 family in Kentucky, and that's a T9P, the partial trisomy. So we're pretty spread apart. Um, and only one person on my son's medical team has ever had a patient with trisomy 9 mosaic. And he sees, like, at this point, it might be close to 2 dozen specialists between everything that is going on with him. So I would like to see more um, educational institutions include us for nursing, for doctors, um, and even to include us like in hospital education settings with the doctors who are already practicing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair ask. I think it's just, I think as time has happened, and luckily you had some great advice from medical professionals in Asmond's early days of saying, meet other parents, and also the being humble enough to be like, We don't have answers. It's still early, or we're still evolving in
Mhm.
our research." To just kind of say, be the expert, lead the way. I know, when I've talked to other parents, when they find a team of specialists, of hospitalists, of counselors, genetic counselors, and you can kind of have this team because, like you said, some of these folks, although they see a lot of patients and they have a lot of wonderful knowledge, your child is fairly unique on their list of patients, right? And so it's just so magical when I've heard, and I think this is happening more and more. I'm at least listening for it, and I hear that it happens where like these teams kind of can at least work well together, and the parents' input is well received and acknowledged. Sadly, it's not always the case. I don't want to not call out what isn't officially there yet, but man, the practice of having this evolve, where this medical expert group with a parent is just kind of surrounding the child to just make things go. That's a wonderful wish, and then also just to start that journey early with medical professionals. I remember being a pretty young kid. I was probably 10 or 11, and my mom had a chance to go to U of A. She did it a few times in University of Arizona. It's a couple hours from where we live, and she
Mhm.
had a chance to speak to a group. I don't remember who they were, but I remember it being on campus at like the hospital associated with the university. I thought my mom was so cool. So drag your kids along when you do get to speak, Allison, with people, because then your kids will be like, "Man, my mom's like an expert. She just talked to doctors." Um, and so pretty cool stuff there. Um, but yeah, I think that's a wonderful thing. You'd be a perfect person to do that. You are definitely have shared a lot of information with me and with other families. Um, I love kind of everything we've been chatting about. I got a couple more just things I really want to point out. You mentioned when you searched on the internet how tragic it was that you saw a lot of bad, that just not good. We'll just call it for what it is. That's terrible vocabulary for me. One reason we're doing this conversation is because I earmark and I SEO and all the craziness to try to have conversations like this show up. What we hope and what
Mhm.
my dream would be is that just information is freely given, and that at as soon as the families find out that they have a child with the chromosome disorder, and trisomy 9M is what we're talking about today, that they can have all the information at their fingertips. And so we hope that we can flood the interwebs with more articles, more journals, more options, more ideas, more family experiences. Because even within our soft trisomy 9 mosaic group, you guys are all living slightly different scenarios, and each kid is having different
Mhm.
successes and struggles. So we just want information given. So again, I have to bring this up. I know it says this is the proof copy, but This is fun. That gray bar won't be on there on the real printed version. But what a wonderful thing. Do you have ideas of what you wanna do with this book? Or maybe just tell me what I should do with the book here publicly and everyone will know. But we try to share them with individuals as quickly as we can. We're trying to get care packages going. But Allison, what do you see a book like that doing for the community, especially new parents? But we have this book. It's wonderful. What would you think would be great for new parents if they just found out about the trisomy 9 diagnosis? What would you suggest? What would be your top advice?
Let's see. Top advice would be to get your hands on, um, like Dr. Lee's paper, get your hands on um, that book, the New and Expectant Parent Guide, because it exists now. Um, get get in the groups and find other trisomy 9 families. They'll probably like join the group and they'll probably message you. We're real social like that. But we'll probably message you and ask you what you need. Um, and just ask questions, and also it's like know that it's okay to feel your feelings, and um like if you're sad because you've gotten the diagnosis, you can be sad because it's a lot all at once and you're having to change your plans that you thought you were going to have, and it's a lot and you get to mourn that, and that doesn't mean that you love your kid any less. um it just means that you had to shift gears, and it can be difficult, and whatever way that you feel during that is fine, it's normal, it's valid.
Nice. So many emotions go into parenting in general, but a number of them come into this. Partly because, like you said, it's a change of maybe perception or plans. Especially for in your case, you didn't find out till after birth. You kind of expected, hey, Asmond's looking small, but that's not. Other people have
Mhm.
been told that, and then just like with a drop of a hat, just one specialist after the other, your plans changed. And those moments that you and Alex got together and just kind of strategized and pivoted, even though it was sad and it's valid to feel that way or whatever emotions are tied to that. What great advice that it's okay. And then that there's a community out there for you. What a wonderful thing to just get
Mhm.
through that together. Um, Allison, I'm so pleased with all that you're doing. I know you before were kind of gracious in your humility, but you are doing so many wonderful things. Just simply being online and present, sharing the ups and downs of your family of Asmund's, challenges of routine changes on the whiteboard and having to rewrite everything down so you won't forget anything in the checklist and what have you. Just being so transparent with all that you do is helpful. I also feel it's been a lot of fun to be part of the group that is making these documents available, the books. And let me just reiterate, we'll put the links to Dr. Lee and we'll have the website on Soft or our Soft's website is trisomy.org. Let me get this all articulated correctly. Trisomy.org. We'll have a page about trisomy 9. We'll have these links to them. We'll put them on this. I'll make sure that the descriptions of this podcast have those links. But yeah, between Dr. Lee, who's wonderful, she's out of Chicago, had a chance to talk to her frequently at times, and she's just such a blessing in this community. The Trisomy 9 book, we really hope that all new and expectant parents can get a copy of this. We'll have a free digital download, or if you want a printed one, you can buy it on Amazon, or we're working hard to get care packages put together. But we just want to inform, and then parents and families can make decisions that are right for them. And at that point, the parents should have that decision making opportunity, and we will be there to support in any which way we can help as an organization, as fellow parents like Allison. What a wonderful thing. So, yeah, I think for me, we really just hope that everyone can feel empowered. I think that's the word of 2026 for me as I've talked to parents. Um, Allison, I love that you have a dream of speaking more to colleges and universities and medical professionals as they're studying to kind of expand their understanding of this unique condition. Um, the other thing I wanted to ask you this, I had a chance to talk to Dr. Pyle. She's a remarkable doctor out of Connecticut. She helped lead the article from the American Academy of Pediatrics that declared that trisomy 18 and 13 no longer need to be incompatible with life, and I probably add trisomy 9 to that too. The thing she talked about was this. Oftentimes medical professionals don't get to live the day to day life. They see the emergency room, or they see the ICU, or they see the NICU. um, I just love that you're sharing pictures and videos at home. When it comes to speaking to medical professionals, is there anything in particular that you'd like to kind of say to maybe open the window to your day to day life or things of that nature? Is there something in particular that you'd hope that you could kind of share with the world about trisomy 9M?
Um, oh goodness, this was a long time ago. I was listening to a podcast, and it was somebody who was disabled talking about um, how people don't live, and I'm going to get this quote wrong. So apologies ahead of time. But people don't live the tragedy of their diagnosis every single day. And that was impactful to me. This was, I think, maybe before I even had Asmond. It was during a time where my stepdad was sick with cancer, and so we were having a hard time with that as a family, and so that impacted me at that time, thinking like people don't live the tragedy of their diagnosis every single day, and that is the case with trisomy 9 mosaic with Asmond. Is every day is not a tragedy with him. Have we had tragic days? Absolutely. We have had days that have absolutely rocked my world in the worst ways, but on the day to day, it I have the coolest job in the world, and if you had told me before I had Asmond that I would be a stay-at-home mom driving a minivan and that I would find joy and fulfillment in that, I would have looked at you and laughed because I had never planned on that. I always planned on having a career outside of the home. Um, and this is just kind of the way that things have shaken out for us. And it's like I've gotten to a point, there have been plenty of times over the past couple of years where I've had to like sacrifice big things and had a very hard time with that. And at different times having like a hard time with like, okay, well, this is how I used to identify myself. And these were the things that made me me. And now I can't do those things anymore. And everything is just completely different. It flipped my world on its head. And if you had told me that I would be living a completely different type of life, um, I would I wouldn't have believed you.
Appreciate that. Not, every day is not a tragedy. What meaningful words of advice there.
Mhm.
Just thinking about what you describe when you wake up Asmund or get him out of his bed, what joy that brings. A smile on your face when you said that initially, and just thinking about it, and just thinking through all the many great things and great stories that you have as a family. Changing your life one day at a time, Asmund is, and changing the world, Asmund is, through you, through your leadership, through you and your husband, making the world better for the next child that has trisomy 9 mosaic. So Asmund's a hero, like many of these. And so this is Asmund's story, and that's how I like to label these. Allison, you might be speaking, and I might be just here as the guest or as the host, but this is Asmund's story. And what a wonderful journey that he's taking your family through, the goods, the bads, the awesomes, the lows. I just am so happy. Having thought through a lot of other families, man, it's a journey that's like none other. So let Asmund's story, as unique as it is, keep sharing it online. We appreciate you, Allison, for that. You can always edit this so you have the last word, but I want to give you the last word. Just any more impactful thoughts? Because the last few items that you've said, soundbite wise, I always click them like add a marker. Whatever Allison just said, let's highlight that. Let's make that into a short. But do you have any other lasting advice that you'd like to say before we stop today's episode?
I would say just, I mean, enjoy your kiddo if you're a family with a new diagnosis. Um, enjoy your kiddo. Find the things about them that you enjoy, things to celebrate. It's not going to look like the milestones that they have on the chart. Um, it's it's going to be in their own time, their own milestones. You'll find yourself celebrating some of the weirdest things, and that is totally fine. Um, because along the journey, and it is a different journey, um, there's so much to celebrate, and um, each day, like, and I know this sounds like a platitude, but each day is precious um, with these kiddos because while it's not an incompatible with life situation, we know that um, because these kids are living and they're happy and they're cared for and they're loved and they are loving people. While it's not incompatible with life, we also are, as parents, aware of I'd say, I guess, the fragility of the situation. Um, and so it's important to kind of like soak in and enjoy the time with our kids.
That's great. Enjoy the time and
Mhm.
soak it in. I just every day is different and many a days are great. There are some tragedies out there and some harder days, but that's life, right? Again, I think for me, the more that we can share the varieties of stories, it changes what the definition of quality of life is. Because as
Yes.
we said earlier, that's a slippery slope. It's just the perception of what quality life is changes as you experience new things. So thank you,
Yes.
Allison, for letting Asmond's story be the lead here. And I know you're the spokesman for him, but this is Asmond's story, and you and I are just part of it. And he's making us better. He's changing the world. And so his story is making a difference. I like to end with this just as a reminder. If you like these podcasts, we hope that you follow them. We'll have more coming. We love to have families share. We've got plenty of families that can and will and are happy to share their children's story. We have some medical professionals that will be joining us. They're sometimes harder to schedule. They got too many doctor's appointments, but they're seeing so many wonderful kids. So we keep seeing the appointments. Thank you, doctors, for doing that. But we'll have our medical champions join us at times. So we'll have a variety of podcasts. Follow us. Share these with those that need them. We'll break these up into sound bites. Allison, you've done such a wonderful job sharing some very impactful moments. I'm trying to get more of our sound bites onto social media. So we hope that you like those, follow those, repost them, whatever we do. We want families in the future to have as much information as possible. So please help us flood the internet with a variety of stories and information that can be found quickly and easily. So, if you want to join us in the cause of supporting families and changing the narrative, we'd love for your support at Soft, whether it be as members or as donors or supporters or just reposters. Thank you for that. Um, thank you, Allison. This has been wonderful. Your time is so valuable that we appreciate you donating some of it today to join us. Thank the church again for letting you have a quiet place to chat. And again, like always, we hope that you, if you like us, follow us, like us, subscribe, all those cool things. But this is Talking Trisomy. We got Allison Thompson coming from the South, from the Commonwealth of Kentucky. And this was Asmond's story. So thank you again, everyone, and we'll see you next time.